can philosophy be if there is a deity controlling all? What help can it be if all is governed by chance? For it is impossible either to change what is already determined, or to make preparations to meet what is undetermined. Either in the first case my planning is forestalled by a god who decrees how I am to act, or in the second case it is fortune that allows me no freedom to plan. Whichever of these alternatives, Lucilius, is true, even if all of them are true, we still need to practice philosophy. Whether we are caught in the grasp of an inexorable law of fate, whether it is God who as Lord of the universe has ordered all things, or whether the affairs of mankind are tossed and buffeted haphazardly by chance, it is philosophy that has the duty of protecting us. She will encourage us to submit to God with cheerfulness, and to fortune with defiance. She will show you how to follow God, and bear what chance may send you. But I mustn't pass on here to a discussion of the problem, what is within our control, if there is a governing providence, whether we are carried along enmeshed in a train of fated happenings, or whether we are at the mercy of the sudden and the unforeseeable. For the present, I go back to the point where I was before, to advise and urge you not to allow your spiritual enthusiasm to cool off or fall away. Keep a hold on it, and put it on a firm footing, so that what is at present an enthusiasm may become a settled spiritual disposition. If I know you, you'll have been looking around from the very start of this letter to see what it's going to bring you by way of a little present. Search the letter and you'll find it. You needn't think my kindness all that remarkable. I'm only being generous still with someone else's property. Why, though, do I call it someone else's? Whatever is well said by anyone belongs to me. Here is another saying of Epicurus: if you shape your life according to nature, you will never be poor. If, according to people's opinions, you will never be rich. Nature's wants are small, while those of opinion are limitless. Imagine that you've piled up all that a veritable host of rich men ever possessed, that fortune has carried you far beyond the bounds of wealth, so far as any private individual is concerned, building you a roof of gold, and clothing you in royal purple, conducting you to such a height of opulence and luxury that you hide the earth with marble floors, putting you in a position not merely to own, but to walk all over treasures. Throw in sculptures, paintings, all that has been produced at tremendous pains by all the arts to satisfy extravagance. All these things will only induce in you a craving for even bigger things. Natural desires are limited. Those which spring from false opinions have nowhere to stop, for falsity has no point of termination. When a person is following a track, there is an eventual end to it somewhere, but with wandering at large there is no limit. So give up pointless empty journeys, and whenever you want to know whether desire aroused in you by something you are pursuing is natural or quite unseeing, ask yourself whether it is capable of coming to rest at any point. If after going a long way there is always something remaining farther away, be sure it is not something natural. Letter number 18. It is the month of December, and yet the whole city is in a sweat. Festivity at state expense is given unrestricted license. Everywhere there echoes the noise of preparations on a massive scale. It all suggests that the Saturnalia holidays are different from the ordinary working day, when the difference is really non-existent. So much so, in fact, that the man who said that December used to be a month, but is now a year, was, in my opinion, not far wide of the mark. If I had you with me, I should enjoy consulting you and finding out what course you think we should follow. Should we make no alteration in our daily habits, or should we take off our togas? Time was when a change of formal wear would come about only during periods of grave political upheaval, whereas with us it happens for holidays and pleasure's sake, and have dinner parties with a note of gaiety about them to avoid giving the impression that we disagree with the ways of those around us. If I know you as well as I think I do, and you had to give a decision in the matter, You would say that we should be neither altogether like nor altogether unlike the festive-hatted crowd. But perhaps this is the very season when we should be keeping the soul under strict control, making it unique and abstaining from pleasure, just when the crowd are all on pleasure bent. If the soul succeeds in avoiding either heading, or being carried away in the direction of the temptations that lead people into extravagant living, no surer proof of its strength of purpose can be vouchsafed it. Remaining dry and sober takes a good deal more strength of will when everyone about one is puking drunk. It takes a more developed sense of fitness, on the other hand, not to make oneself a person apart, to be neither indistinguishable from those about one, nor conspicuous by one's difference, to do the same things but not in quite the same manner. For a holiday can be celebrated without extravagant festivity. Still, my determination to put your moral strength of purpose to the test is such that I propose to give even you the following direction found in great men's teaching. Set aside, now and then, a number of days during which you will be content with the plainest of food, and very little of it, and with rough, coarse clothing, and will ask yourself, is this what one used to dread? It is in times of security that the spirit should be preparing itself to deal with difficult times. While fortune is bestowing favours on it, then is the time for it to be strengthened against her rebuffs. In the midst of peace, the soldier carries out manoeuvres, throws up earthworks against a non-existent enemy, and tires himself out with unnecessary toil in order to be equal to it when it is necessary. If you want a man to keep his head when the crisis comes, you must give him some training before it comes. This was the aim of the men who once every month pretended they were poor, bringing themselves face to face with want to prevent their ever being terrified by a situation which they had frequently rehearsed. You must not at this point imagine that I mean meals like Timon's, or the poor man's room, or anything else to which the extravagance of wealth resorts to amuse away its tedium. That palate must be a real one, and the same applies to your smock, and your bread must be hard and grimy. Endure all this for 3 or 4 days at a time, sometimes more, so that it is a genuine trial and not an amusement. At the end of it, believe me, Lucilius, you will revel in being sated for a penny, and will come to see that security from care is not dependent on fortune, for even when she is angry, she will always let us have what is enough for our needs. There is no reason, mind you, why you should suppose yourself to be performing a considerable feat in doing this. You will only be doing something done by thousands upon thousands of slaves and paupers. But take credit on one account, that you will be doing it out of your own free choice, and finding it no more difficult to endure on a permanent basis than to try out once in a while. We should be practicing with a dummy target, getting to be at home with poverty, so that fortune cannot catch us unprepared. We shall be easier in our minds when rich, if we have come to realize how far from burdensome it is to be poor. The great hedonist teacher Epicurus used to observe certain periods during which he would be niggardly in satisfying his hunger, with the object of seeing to what extent, if at all, one thereby fell short of attaining full and complete pleasure, and whether it was worth going to so much trouble to make the deficit good. At least, so he says in the letter he wrote to Polyaenus in the year Carinus was in office. He boasts in it indeed that he is managing to feed himself for less than a halfpenny, whereas Metrodorus, not yet having made such good progress, needs a whole halfpenny. Do you think such fare can do no more than fill a person up? It can fill him with pleasure as well, not the kind of insubstantial, fleeting pleasure that needs constant renewal, but a pleasure which is sure and lasting. Barley porridge, or a crust of barley bread and water, do not make a very cheerful diet, but nothing gives one keener pleasure than the ability to derive pleasure even from that, and the feeling of having arrived at something which one cannot be deprived of by any unjust stroke of fortune. Prison rations are more generous. The man in the condemned cell is not so scantily fed as that by the executioner. To reduce oneself, then, of one's own free choice to a diet that no man has any real call to be apprehensive about, even if he is sentenced to death, that is an act of real spiritual greatness. To do this is truly to forestall the blows of fortune. So, my dear Lucilius, start following these men's practice, and appoint certain days on which to give up everything, and make yourself at home with next to nothing. Start cultivating a relationship with poverty. Dear guest, be bold enough to pay no heed